Good day, and thank you for tuning in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast. For all of our new listeners and viewers who are tuning in for the very first time, I'm Pastor Pope, Senior Pastor of New Life Christian Center, located at 400 Hillcrest Avenue in Wilmington, Delaware, 19809. We are located at the corner of Hillcrest and Marsh Road in Wilmington, Delaware. There's parking on Hillcrest. We are the brown brick building on the corner of Hillcrest and Marsh Road. And we invite you to come and worship with us every Sunday at 10 a.m. Service begins. We invite you to come, worship God, praise the Lord, and experience a better quality of life. We are located right on the corner of Hillcrest and Marsh Road, 400 Hillcrest Avenue in Wilmington, Delaware, 19809 at New Life Christian Center. Come and experience a much better quality of life. We are live in 3D Monday through Friday from 12:30 p.m. until 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, broadcasting live from the FijiWater.com sponsored studio to discuss whatever topics you might like to discuss, whatever issues of life you find challenging or that you find difficult to navigate. You can discuss your present, you can discuss your future, you can discuss marriage, divorce, raising children, blending families, you can discuss careers, finances, entrepreneurship, and you can discuss dating and relationships. Whatever's in your heart, whatever's on your mind, God is concerned about that which concerns you. So we are here broadcasting live from the FijiWater.com sponsored studio every Monday through Friday from 12:30 p.m. until 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And as always, 3D is brought to you by Fiji Water, Earth's finest water. You may already know that Fiji water comes from Fiji. However, did you know that it is created by nature? It is untouched by man. It starts as a tropical rainfall which slowly filters through layers of volcanic rock. The water collects in a natural, sustainable artesian aquifer where it is bottled right at the source, guaranteed to never run out, free from human contact until you unscrew the blue cap. Fiji Water, Earth's finest water, will be delivered right to your front door when you subscribe for delivery, and you'll save money at FijiWater.com. This is not just ordinary water. This is Fiji Water at FijiWater.com. And for those of you who continue giving on the give segment of our app at New Life-Delaware, and those of you that have made a weekly or monthly commitment to support the broadcast by giving on the contribution pages of our websites at NewLifeMinistriesInternational.com and NewLifeInternationalCDC.com, we thank you for your support and for your commitment as we fulfill our commitment to God to be here for you in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcasting. I'm going to make an announcement today. Of course, you know we are Facebook Live, we're YouTube Live, we're RadioFreeNetwork.com Live. You can go to RadioFreeNetwork.com, click on New Life, click on radio, and the drop box will appear. Click on the New Life link, and every broadcast will be available to you. But I also want to invite everyone, and I'm making this announcement now, to our annual golf tournament to support our Achievers Academy. You can go to achieversgolf.com and register. Our website is live for registration. You can go on achieversgolf.com and register, and we look forward to hosting you at our annual golf tournament on Saturday, May 21st, 2022. So go to the website, take a look around, and register. If you know someone who is a golfer, please encourage them to register. And if you just want to make a contribution, you are welcome to do so, and we thank you for your support in advance. I'm going to address a communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers who indicated that you have some decisions to make in the coming year, both personally and professionally, and you are fearful of making the wrong decisions. So first of all, let me say this. Fear is simply false evidence appearing real. God does not give us the spirit of fear, but of love, power, and a sound mind. So you have a sound mind to make good judgments. You have the power of God to make good decisions. And although I don't want to get into another communication that I'm going to address today, here's the reality. You've got to trust God. You've got to trust that when you examine the facts, you analyze the facts, both personally and professionally, you can make good decisions that are going to enhance the quality of your life. You can't be afraid of that. You know, there's no purpose in, and I'll use this as an analogy for shock value for all of us. There's no feasible way that you can stay in bed, cover your head, and let the world go by. That's first and foremost. So you know that. And then the fact that God awakens us on any given day, and we are able to get out of bed, put our feet on the floor, and hopefully lift your hands and say, thank you, God, for another day. We have to recognize that once we begin the process of the day, if we trust God to allow us to use His Spirit to make good decisions, we'll make good decisions. That doesn't imply we won't make mistakes along the way of life. It just implies that we will be able to make good decisions. So you've got to trust yourself. After trusting God, you have to trust yourself to not only make the decision, but then to implement. And you can't be fearful of that. Because once again, fear is just false evidence appearing to be real. So your fear is not even real. It's created in your mind because, like all of us and many of us, you've made decisions in the past that didn't work out to your advantage. They were not good decisions. Okay. We all have been there. We all have made mistakes along the way. But we can't be snake bit. And we can't get shell shocked. We have to continue to live this life, this blessed life that God has provided to us. We have to continue living this life, and we have to continue making decisions every day. And because you have decisions that need to be made in the coming year, trust the decisions that you make using the Spirit of God to make them. This is for all of our listeners and viewers now. Anytime you have a decision to make, you have to go before God, first and foremost. Now, I know you've been prayerful about your decisions, and you believe you haven't been hearing from God, but the Spirit of God has been moving in you. So you know the decisions that you now know the decisions that need to be made. And now you have to understand that you have the power to make those decisions. When we have decisions to make, we have to make them first with love, because it may have an impact on our immediate family. But then we have to make them with power. And what that means is we have to decide that we're going to stand firm in the decisions that we make. And then we have to trust that God has given us a sound mind to make those decisions. So, in other words, you have to trust God. You have to trust beyond what you know you're capable of doing. Trust beyond what you know may have an impact on your family in some way. You've got to trust God, first and foremost. And once you've done that, once you've gotten to that place where you trust God to make the decisions, you trust the God in you, the Spirit of God moving in you to make the decisions, to move forward, then you must move forward. You can't stand on the edge of the cliff, you either have to dive off into the water or you have to step back off the cliff. But that too is about making a decision and taking an action. So you have to recognize that fear can't be your factor. Only the facts, the analyzed and determined facts, can be part of your decision-making process. Your decision-making process cannot be made based on your fear to move forward. Once you have made the decision with power, stand on your decision. Don't be afraid of the unknown, because God knows the unknown. You know what's really interesting? We use those terms. People will say, "Oh, I fear the unknown." Well, just because you don't know it doesn't mean that it's unknown. God knows everything He's doing in our lives, and He's concerned about everything in our lives. Watch this. A lot of people don't realize this, but God is concerned both personally and professionally about every aspect of your life. Everything that is important to you is important to God. And so we have to recognize the fact that we can't be afraid to move forward. We just have to stand on the decisions that we make. We don't want to flip-flop. We don't want to be fickle. We don't want to go back and forth. We don't want to, today I feel like this, tomorrow I feel like that. None of that is going to enhance the quality of your life. Once we make a decision, we have to stand on the decision. Now, that doesn't imply, and I'll use a personal analogy here, but that doesn't imply that you cannot make a decision on something and make a revision. Sometimes after you really not just have the facts and analyze the facts and make your decision, sometimes you review the research and analysis that you've done, and you may revise your implementation strategy. You may revise your next course of action, your next action may be revised. But that doesn't mean you revised your entire decision. So I'm going to encourage you, and I'm going to pray for you also. I was prayerful about this, but I'm going to pray for you and your family that the decisions that you're making were made with God in mind and with the Spirit of God moving through you, so that the decisions you make will prosper and have good success. And I will tell you that God allowed me to see in that secret place of your life, it will be well with your soul. It will be blessed. The decisions that you have been working through in your mind, that you're concerned about taking the action, but it will be blessed. Move forward in Him, in God, live, move, and have your being. This segment of the broadcast is brought to you by T-Mobile, America's largest, fastest, and most reliable 5G provider at no extra charge. So if you're not currently a T-Mobile customer, you may call or text on the T-Mobile call or text line at 267-992-1424. We will place you into our queue so that you may become a T-Mobile customer and experience America's largest, fastest, and most reliable 5G provider at no extra charge. Taxes and fees are included in your bill, and if you auto pay by attaching a credit card to your account, you will receive a discount on your monthly bill at T-Mobile, America's largest, fastest, and most reliable 5G provider at no extra charge. I'm going to address another communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers who indicated that you have been raised in a very challenging environment, and it has become, well, you said it's been a disruptive force in your life. Your career is suffering, and you're creating the same environment for your children that you grew up in. So let me say this. I recognize that you're the generation behind us. You know, you're at that point in your life where you really expected your career to be flourishing. So I get that. You say that you are creating the same environment for your children. That's what's commonly known in spiritual realm as a generational curse. And what you have to recognize is that it's not how you begin, it's how you finish. It's not how you start. So your environment that you grew up in was challenging. However, it was not designed for your future. It was designed to sustain you in your adolescent years. It was difficult because your parents had challenges. You know, you had a broken home. You experienced some lack in your life in your adolescent years. When we become young adults, our perspective is formed by our environment. However, we have the opportunity to then make decisions that will break or continue the generational curse. So you're going to have to change your perspective. And let me break this down for you. You're going to have to make a conscious decision that, first of all, the things that you saw growing up and the environment that you were raised in sustains you to get to a place where you would be able to begin your life. Because that's truly the beginning of your life. You were living someone else's life as a minor. You were living as a minor dependent on someone else. And whatever their challenges may have been, you were dependent on them to overcome their challenges. And because they found it difficult to overcome their challenges, you carried that into your adult life. The good news is that you now get to make the decisions that are going to break the generational curses. That you don't have to create the same environment for your children that you grew up in. You get to decide whether or not you want to go back to school. You get to decide whether or not you want to really work at a level that's going to allow you to prosper and have good success. You get to decide whether or not your children are going to grow up in an environment that's challenging, and that's your choice. That's not the choice of your parents. It's not the choice of your grandparents. It's your decision that you get to make. And the problem is that we have to learn that we're not powerless. You have the power to move forward because you have God in your life. You're saved. That's the good news. Which means that God has now given you the power through your salvation, through your resurrection. God has given you the power to now move forward. And the way that you do that is so you recognize that your career is suffering. You have to stop allowing your career to suffer. And what that means is you cannot just take days off from work just because you're sick of working. You have to, and I'm going to tell you, God allowed me to see in that secret place of your life. That's one of the problems that has caused your career to suffer. And even when you're going to work, you don't always show up on time. So you've got to start right there. Let me just break this down. You've got to start right there with going to work every day and showing up on time. And then the next step, because that's the first step, the next step, you got to show up and you got to be on time. The next step is to perform at a higher level. Don't just, and this is going to be real important, and I'm going to take this to another level for all of our listeners and viewers. It's not just good enough to show up, you have to perform at a higher level. And you have to make certain that you are exceeding expectations in order for your career to flourish. See, some people believe that it's good enough to just show up. It's never good enough to just show up. It's almost like saying it's good enough to just be saved. And I've had this conversation in Bible study. I've preached this from the pulpit. Contrary to popular belief, it's not good enough to just be saved. And we know that because Jesus sent his disciples out. Even after they accepted who he was, he sent them out to do more work, to win souls. So we have to understand that it's not good enough to just be saved. What our job is to be an example, an ambassador for Christ, an example of, watch this, because people don't want to intertwine the two, but to be an example of success so that someone else will say, what must I do to be saved? What must I do to be like you? How can I get that same joy and that same peace that you have? And so we're ambassadors for Christ. We're examples to others. That's part of our responsibility. But in order to do that, it begins with our personal and our professional lives. So you have to say to yourself, the reason you don't, and I'm only speaking what the Lord has spoken to me, what God has allowed me to see in that secret place of your life. The reason that you don't always go to work is because you don't always go to church. And the reason you don't always go to church is because you don't always go to work. They're synonymous. When we discipline ourselves to go to church every Sunday, you'll show up for work every day. Now, I do realize there's some people who go to work every day that don't show up for church on Sundays, but that's a different topic for another day, because that should be your time to thank God that you have a place to go to work, is when you go to church on Sundays. That's part of the worship and praise. So you've got to recognize how they're synonymous. But in order for you to improve the quality of your life, in order for you to really ensure that your career flourishes, that your professional life begins to flourish, it's going to begin with you disciplining yourself by making a commitment to be at work every day. And I'll say, and at church on Sundays. You're not in my area. If you were in my church, you wouldn't be doing that. I'm just going to keep it real. You'd be at work every day, and you'd be at work on time every day. Because we always talk about the 15-minute rule. We want everyone at their workstation, in their place of employment, in their career, functioning 15 minutes early on a daily basis. I wish everyone was in church 15 minutes early, but that's another sermon for another day. But people are in church on time. And the reason is because we teach that. Well, it's no different with we teach that discipline. And that's no different with your professional life. You should be at work on time. You should be at work every day. There was a time when people had pride about going to work every day and never missing a day of work. I'm not talking about taking, personal days or vacation that they give you, to get your, health and wellness checkup annually, to, do the things that you might need to do that can only be done during the week. That's why you have personal days, or that's why you have PTO. The reality is, other than that, people didn't miss work. There was a time when people took pride in that. And they didn't have the quality of life that many of us have today. So we really have a reason to be thankful that we have health and strength, and we're able to go to the office every day. And if we need to take a day off here or there, or some days off because of maybe illness or just simply because you're going on vacation, to God be the glory. But other than that, we should be at work every day. Not taking days off just because we're sick of working. Because that was a popular thing for people to say at one time. Because society teaches us a lot of things that are wrong. People would say, I don't feel like going to work today. I'm going to call off sick because I'm sick of working. That was a misnomer that was taught to us by society that didn't have an impact on careers. So we've got to make certain that we're doing all of the right things to get to the right place in our lives, the place that God has appointed for us in all of our lives. So I'm going to say to you, this is something you have the opportunity to change. It won't happen overnight. Some things can be done overnight, but the quality of your life, the environment, might not change this year. It might have to be, not when I say this year, this coming year, it might be the year after that. You may be able to move into a better apartment or a nicer community, apartment in a nicer community, because you change some of your daily habits with regard to your professional life. The reason you've had to go from job to another job is because you've been living out the same environment that you grew up in, which created a generational curse that's now been carried on by you, but you can break it for your children. It can stop right here. And this is a good place to start for the future. Remember, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. This segment of the broadcast has been brought to you by Charles Tyrwhitt, located in London, the UK. They also have stores in New York, Chicago, Washington, D.C., and at the King of Prussia Mall in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. If you're in any of those areas, stop in at the retail stores. They have everything a man could possibly need: shirts for men, ties for men, suits for men, and accessories. If you're not in any of those areas, you can order from Charles Tyrwhitt at ctshirts.com. They will ship and deliver right to your front door in an appropriate period of time. And The White Company, located in London, the UK, and they also have a store on Fifth Avenue in New York. If you're in New York, stop in at the retail store. They have everything that you could possibly need. They have home goods, clothing for men, women, and children. And if you're not in New York, you can order from The White Company at thewhitecompany.com. They too will ship and deliver right to your front door in an appropriate period of time. I'm going to address another communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers who indicated that you have been working hard to overcome a family problem. However, it has been extremely difficult for you to resolve. And you want to know, what can you do to get through this? So, I mentioned a little earlier, one of the communications was going to take me into this communication. And I didn't want to, intertwine the two, but here's the reality. You've got to trust God. You've got to trust God and keep working. You've got to do your part. You've got some family problems, and life happens to us all. But pure and simple, rest if you must, just don't quit. You have to trust God first and foremost, that He will bring you through this, because you will. These problems that occur in life always come to an end. Our prayer and our work is, our prayer, our faith, and our work is that they'll be resolved with a successful resolution. That's the prayer and the faith and the work we put in. But you've got to trust God, and you've got to believe God, and you've got to keep working. You've got to do your part. So rest if you must, but don't quit. You really are going to have to put some work into this. And this is not just going to last for a season. It's going to take you through a couple of seasons. But as you go into the summer months, this will have come to a successful resolution. Everyone will survive this, and it will be resolved. And then you can lift your hands and say, to God be the glory, and you can enjoy the summer, and you will have some peace. And for that, you can thank God. Today's Daily Divine Direction broadcast 3D has been brought to you by Fiji Water. A taste of paradise will be delivered right to your front door when you subscribe for delivery, and you'll save money at FijiWater.com. May God bless you today. May God keep his face turned towards you.